Welcome to Beerstories from Beerstory Brewhouse. This video is my top 5 brew mistakes that I made, and therefore you shouldn't make them. If you don't want to miss any videos from Beerstories, remember to click like and subscribe down the corner. You get the newest videos in your YouTube feed, but you will also help out me and the channel, so I really appreciate it if you do. Also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. So this is a video where I reflect on 5 brewing mistakes that I've done, and therefore you shouldn't do them. And that calls for a beer. So this is my hazy IPA, almost non-alcoholic, 0.8 or 9%. There'll be a video on this in the future on NA beers. But this video is about my top 5 brewing mistakes. And the first one is rushing your beer or rushing your brew day. The fermentation, I'll get back to the fermentation, but that's the most important thing about the beer, is a good fermentation. And you can't rush it. It would take the time that it takes, at least 14 days, and some beers even longer. So don't worry, let it sit there, even though what your recipe says. It can actually be in the fermenter for several months without any problems. So don't rush your beer. And do not rush a brew day. The worst brew days I've had is where I was in a hurry to be done because I had to do something else. And my best brew days is where I knew I haven't got any plans. I don't have to do anything the next 10 hours, so I can just take it easy. Even though the brew day might only be 5 or 6 hours, it's just I'm just enjoying myself more if I don't have some kind of time limit or something. And in that content, you don't drink too many beers either, because that would also cause you to make mistakes. Just like when you have a busy brew day, you just make more mistakes, and it's not fun. So yeah, number 1 is don't be in a rush, don't be in a hurry. Both on the brew day and with the fermentation. Number 2, do not open your fermenter. Avoid oxygen. Don't open to check on it. If you want to dry hop, do it with magnets. There's a link in the description for a video on that. Just don't open the fermenter. It will cause the beer to get more stale. Even though it still tastes good, it would have been even better if you didn't open the fermenter. You can also risk infection. So just don't open the fermenter, and don't brag to secondary. There's no need for it. No need for it. I make totally clear beers, even though I don't transfer to secondary. Number 3, pitch yeast at correct temperature. This is really important, because if you pitch yeast too warm, you can get off flavors, fusel alcohols and stuff like that, but you also get a lot of esters, because right in the beginning of the fermentation is where the yeast is really hungry, and it will divide and it's actually here where it makes the most off flavors as well, and also esters. So you can really screw up a beer by pitching the yeast too warm. So don't do that. Let it cool overnight if you don't have something to cool it down with. Let it just cool overnight and pitch your yeast the next day. That's fine. Just don't pitch at too high a temperature. That leads me straight to number 4, under pitching yeast. That's also a huge problem. I did it once with a Kölsch that ended up tasting like bananas. So many Belgian yeast and Kölsch yeast Yeah, other yeast, they can, if you underpitch, you will stress the yeast. It will also make esters, but there will also not be enough healthy yeast at the end of fermentation to clean up. So you can be left with diacetyl, acetaldehyde, fusel alcohols, maybe if you really stress out your yeast. And there's no need for that. Just pitch enough yeast. One package of yeast for 25 liters or 5 gallons is almost never enough, of dry yeast anyway. So keep that in mind. And that leads me directly to number 5, which is just learn and focus more on fermentation, temperature during the total fermentation, what yeast I'm using for the right style of beer, of course, how long it's fermenting, pitch rate, yeah, and all this you can learn more about it in my video on everything you need to know about fermentation, down in the description. The fermentation is just the most important thing about beer. The brewer just makes the wort and the yeast makes the beer. So give the yeast the best conditions to make the best beer. Also yeast nutrition. If it's a strong beer, you need yeast nutrition. Really focus on giving the yeast the best possible conditions to ferment your beer the best possible way. That will make the best possible beer. You didn't make the beer, the yeast did. So that was my 5 brewing mistakes that I've really, by not doing these and be aware of these things, really elevated my brewing to a whole nother level. Number 6. I have a number 6, but it actually is not a thing that I've done. But I know it's a problem for many brewers, and that is to use too many adjuncts and too many spices and not really testing it out. That's a huge mistake. Learn to brew a solid stout. Learn to brew a solid brown ale. Learn to brew a solid IPA. If you can do those and you do them very well, you can start adding adjuncts. But you need your baseline to be great before adding cacao nibs, before you're adding marshmallows, before adding Danish cakes or whatever. Get your base in order, get your brewing technique in order, get your recipes in order, learn how to brew a proper stout, learn how to brew a pilsner, learn how to brew a whatever, and then learn to experiment. And also try to, if I want this to be a milkshake IPA, add a little lactose, taste it, was it enough? Maybe, and then add it up to the whole beer. Actually, there's a video on that in the description as well. So if you want to try out things, make a test before you make a whole batch. I know a lot of people, they get tired of brewing because they never got the perfect beer. Almost all my beers are very good beer, and I brew to have good beer at home. I don't brew to make beers that no one has ever made before. So often there's a reason why people haven't made them before. So make good beer and then experiment from there. And I guess that was it. If you stick around to the end, there'll be 2 videos up here that YouTube wants you to see. And it will make me very happy if you just click like and subscribe down in the corner here. You get the newest videos in the YouTube feed, and you'll help out the channel and me. Also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And I'll be really happy if you write to me through Facebook and Instagram, or just write to me down in the comments here. I would love to hear what your brewing mistakes was. So yeah, write them down in the comments. Other than that, have a happy brewing out there.